It's another day, another week, and we have another opportunity for us to continue to improve upon whatever it is that we strive to achieve. And in this class, you want to improve on our English language skills. We've mentioned that English, and any language for that matter, if you want to be able to speak well, then you have to open your mouth and actually speak. So practicing is very, very important. Yeah, so I have encouraged and I continue to encourage you, try to speak the language as much as possible. Don't be too afraid to make mistakes. Yeah, so when you're out and about, try and then speak. You can know all the rules, and pass tests and exams and whatnot. Until you open your mouth and then practice the language, you are not going to become any better at it. Yeah, so I have hopefully an exciting lesson planned for today and then for the week. But before we get there, let's just spend some time on last week's lesson as in by way of revision. Let's try to revise on what we did the previous week before we move on. Yes, and if you remember last week we discussed nouns, at least some aspects of nouns. Yes, what did we say nouns were? Nouns are names. So any word that is a name, that gives a name, is a noun. Yes, it can be the names of persons, animals, places, events, and so very good. We mentioned actions, names of actions, such as writing. So this, when you look at a typical thing, this is a verb. But we mentioned that it is not a verb until you have a helping verb with it. So we say is writing, the boy is writing. Here, this is a verb. But standing alone like this, these are either nouns or they are adjectives, right? Yes, participles. Yes. So we say writing is my hobby. So in this sentence, writing is not a verb, it is a noun. And we say that nouns that look like this, we call them gerunds. Yes, and then we also look at the types of nouns. At least we looked at it. We said that nouns are grouped into two broad categories, and these are the proper nouns and did you say proper nouns? Yes, common nouns, improper nouns. I don't know if it can be true, but what you go with is common nouns. We have proper nouns and then common nouns. What's the difference between the two? So that proper nouns are the unique names of persons, special names given to persons, animals, places, and their things. So, for example, give me an example of a proper noun that is a person. Yes, Jules. Jules is French, isn't it? Yes. So Karim. So these are proper nouns. We have to write them. Most important rules with regards to these two types of nouns is that when we write proper nouns, we have to always start with capital, regardless whether they are beginning the sentence or not. Anytime we write proper nouns, we always have to start with a capital letter. Yes. Proper nouns of animals. So if you have a pet dog and give it a special name, that name is a proper noun. But generally, names of, for example, dog is a common noun, right? But when you go and talk about the individual breeds of dogs, those names are proper. So for example, I'm not a dog person, but I know that the German Shepherd is a breed of dog. German Shepherd dog. Okay, so the German there makes it pretty obvious. But the shepherd also has to be capital. Yes. Yes, Chihuahua. Yes, those small tiny dogs, right? Yes. So anytime you write Chihuahua, and yes, so all the breeds of dogs, they have to start with capital. Breeds of animals. So you talk about cats. Yeah, so like the Sphinx, the Siamese, and so on and so forth. What about places? Yeah, so names of cities and towns and countries and whatnot. So Accra would be a capital, sorry, proper noun, Accra, Kumasi. Events, yeah, so yeah, perhaps Christmas kind of event is in Christmas, Easter, and whatnot. We can't have proper nouns of actions, can we? Well, anyways, yes, we also looked at singular and plural nouns. We did this towards the end of the week. We mentioned that nouns will change form to reflect plurality and then singularity. So if the what's singular and plural? Singular is one, plural is more than one. So if the noun is one, it has a form. If it becomes more than one, it changes form. Yeah, so usually what happens is we add s. So for example, boy is singular, the plural form will be what? Boys. What about girl? Plural form is girls. Yes, but I also looked at some group of words. So for example, words that end with S, double S, SH, CH, X, O, right? And the letter Z. So you said that words that end with these letters, you don't add just S, you add ES. So for example, church. So you add ES. What about box? You add boxes. Yes. So there may be words that are exceptional to this rule, but generally, this is what happens. And then we also looked at words that end with like Y. So lady now becomes ladies. What about key? Also ends in Y, but here it takes an S. Unlike what happens in lady, right? Why? Because before the Y, you look at the letter. If it's a consonant before the Y, then the Y must change to an I before you add an ES. If it's a vowel, then you only add ES and nothing happens. We also look at other groups of words. So for example,